Technical issues there. No problem. Now we need to kind of let's just dive right in. We got a lot to do today. I've been thinking about this. I did some stuff last night, and um, I'm produ. You know what I'm thinking too? Because I need two hats. So I'm putting my producer hat on. So the white hat is the producer hat, and I got I've got a couple things I need to do so I can get. There we go. We'll do that, and we transition. There we go. Now I can put this other hat back on. See? Ta-da! All right. What are we do? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Okay. This is what we did yesterday. We kind of figured out some things. Let me zoom in a little bit. See if you guys can see that. And there we go. So what we did is we identified some naming conventions for our drag items and our drop targets. And if you're joining for the first time, hey, Michael, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. What we're just talking about is, let's just recap. I'm not gonna switch cameras. I'm just gonna bring this up. You can see this. Well, can't really see that. All right, let me switch cameras. I'm not gonna switch hats. I'm just gonna pull this up. Okay. Pull the mic around. There we go. And all right, there we go. Can you see that? Morning, Lynn. How are you? Hey, Deborah. What's going on? How are you? And yeah, so what we're just recapping real quick. Here's our game. Here's what we're going to build. So my little wooden prototype. And we figured out a lot of the gameplay the last couple days, episodes. So what we're going to do is we're gonna just get what we call the minimum. Well, we're not going to need that one, are we? It went way over there. Just pretend this is 1 and 2. So we're going to do the minimum viable functionality. We're going to get the gameplay to work to where, all right, hang on. I got to go get that piece because that's going to bother me. Stay right there. Found it. Unscripted. We're live. That's what happens. All right, so let's do a real quick gameplay here. So the idea, the formula, again, reminder, is 2 to the nth minus 1. Meaning, an n is where number of rings. So if I have 2 rings, the formula would be 2 times 2 is 4 minus 1. 3 plays, or 3 moves is the minimum. So 1, 2, 3. The object is to move it from this tower of Hanoi, this tower, to the third tower. This is tower A, B, and C. Now if we had a third ring, so n is now 3. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8, minus 1 is 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, it should have been over here. Minimum play, 7. Then we put 5 rings, it's 31 it adds up to. That's a lot of triggers in storyline. So we're just going to, this is our fault. We're going to get that gameplay working. And then it's just duplication of effort. We just start building onto that. So I'm going to switch back over. For those of you who, we're not going to recap everything we've done. If you're interested, you go to the website, producer, switch. If you go to the website, then I'm doing a daily recap. So let me put this, okay, I'm getting back to the comments, hang on. Yeah, Megan, that's my little wooden prototype, just a bunch of spare wood that was left over out in the garage. Just grabbed it one day and just built it just to, because we have to study the gameplay. So when you're doing a physical, something like that, it's really helpful to have some, you can put your hands on and kind of move around. And it doesn't necessarily mean, you can use Lego, you can use Post-it notes, you can, whatever you have. The idea, and it goes back to episode 1, why are we doing all this design work before we get into storyline, is because storyline is that's the technology, that's the authoring environment. And we have to know what we're authoring or developing before we get there. So this is the time we figure everything out and design. So think of instructional design. This time we're just doing interaction design. So same sort of methods. But it's been a fun little, hey, Dawn, there's Dawn, Lynn, Andrea. Yeah, oh yeah, throwing toys all over the room. Oh my goodness. Okay, so where am I at? We're back on the screen. So it's a drag and drop. So we've named them drag, ring 2. We're calling them rings. Those are our drag item objects. And we already have the graphics, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Then we got our drop targets, and these are transparent shapes. And we're going to be doing some hiding and showing of those. And then we have a series of variables that we're going to need to flip true and false to evaluate where things are at. And then down here, and one thing that I did yesterday is discovered that we're not quite done. So I need to turn on the iPad, and we need to go back into this sketch here and make some edits and some changes. So again, I'm producing, and I need to pull the iPad up in this area here, turn that off, and flip over. There we go. Oh, this is the come on. Well done. This is the we needed some colors. So this is my grandbabies that visited over the weekend. And we just used the Adobe Capture app and used this picture and pulled 5 gray tone colors out of here. And this is now called the Grandbabies Gray Tone Color Palette that we're using for, oh, wrong one. There we go. Here we go. Let me let that pull up. I know the transition, in the feed is a little, depending on bandwidth and things like that. It just depends on how we're doing. So let me get that. Everybody can see that okay before I start scribbling? I want to make sure. There's about a 3 to 4 second delay that I'm noticing in all of this. Okay, so I made some notes. Okay. I know what we're doing. Hold on, just hold that thought. We're gonna ramp right up here. Hang on, just a second. Let's go back to our prototype. Remember yesterday when we were figuring out the gameplay between towers B and C. Right, so we have these transparent shapes that are drop targets that are going. We have a drop target. This is B5 and this is C5, and these are drop targets. So if I put a ring on C5, then I have to activate the next C4 as the next drop target, because we don't want our ring to drop on a target way up here. So we want to ignore all the drop targets until the next available drop target. So we figured that's what was on the screen a minute ago. That's all the evaluation we figured out yesterday. However, one thing we didn't think of is what happens now to this tower. Right? I didn't think of that yesterday. So right now, if we think about it, A5 and A4 is occupied. If I bring a ring off of here, then A4 should be now unoccupied or active. The same thing when I move this. These two, now A5 should be activated and A4 should be deactivated, because what if I want to go backwards? What if I want to do that? So we totally ignored Tower A yesterday. So we got to put that in there today. That's what I thought about last night. Turn that off. And we go back over here. There we go. That makes sense? Okay, so right in the middle of this right here, we've got evaluate if drag ring 1 is dropped on drop 5 or drop C5, then change the state of drop B4 or drop C4 to normal. That's actually 2 triggers right there. What, because in storyline we can't do a multiple sort of condition like that. What we have to do is evaluate if drag ring 1 is dropped on drop B5, change B4 to normal. That's a trigger. And then if drag ring 1 is dropped on C5, then change the state of C4 to normal. That's 2 triggers in that first bullet point evaluation. And then we adjust a variable depending on where ring 1 is going, on which tower. And then our snapback, that third bullet is our snapback. We can't put a higher ring on top of a lower ring. So if that happens, then we have to evaluate that, is the user trying to put 2 on top of 1? Can't do that. That's against the gameplay, the rules. So if that happens, then we have to snap that target back to where it came from, or snap that drag item back to its initial position. So, hey, Thomas, what's going on? Good to see you, buddy. There's Kelly just popping in. That high school algebra. Right, Dawn. Yeah, that's right, Michael. And that's so key. I think a lot of people miss that gap, and I get feedback all the time. Everybody's got some really great ideas and great designs, and they say, well, how do I do this? And my first question is, are you designing inside storyline? And if they say yes, then I tell them to shut the lid of your laptop, because you're not supposed to be there yet. Here we are in episode 3, and we haven't even opened storyline yet. We're not ready for storyline yet. That's my mantra, right? If you've heard me get on my high chair, design before develop. It's simple. Put the technology away until you get it figured out, and then when we get into storyline, we should have a pretty good plan by the time we get over there, and we can just start going to work and putting things together. Now, there's going to be some back and forth and some trials trying to figure things out once we get over there, but at least we're not running around, scrambling, looking for ideas. Now, what we need to do is we need to move. I don't know that we need to move any. Well, I'm not saying move, but it's not in the order of how they. And the order and how things go. Not really concerned about that right now here. So we need to I'm not sure how to write this yet. I mean, I know if you watched yesterday, we joined us yesterday, then you remember there was a part in the video broadcast where I said there was something bugging me and I just couldn't put my finger on it. I knew I was missing something, and that was it. It just dawned on me yesterday evening. What do we do with Tower A? So Tower A is we need to evaluate if all right, so there's a couple. So let's see. So, all right, I gotta think of something else here. Hang on. I'm gonna start a new thing here because I'm gonna figure something out here. Let's do this. Okay. The minimum viable function now, we're just going to have 2 rings to get started, right? So we know one thing that we didn't consider. Here's A, Tower B, Tower C. And essentially, let's do this. I'm going to put another layer here. And what I'm doing, I'm kind of putting sort of this kind of a look of those are our drop targets. The blue is our drop targets. So if we kind of follow along here, I think you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. So these are drop targets. Okay, with me on that? And then our drag items are rings over here. So drag rings down here. Now our variables is we called in our other sketch yesterday. We identified a set of variables, one for each drop target. So we have a variable A1, and this is equal to true right now. And variable, no, correction, hold on. This is variable A4 equal to true, and this is variable A5, and it's currently equal to true. Why is that equal to true? Because there's a drag item currently on those drop target states. And then those drop target states, this is drop, what do I call them? Drop A1, and this is drop A2. Oh gosh, it's not A1 and A2. It's A5 and 4. So this is A4, and this is drop A5. And these two currently are in a normal state. And why are they in a normal state is because they're occupied. So that's our logic. If a ring is on a tower in a space, then that drop target needs to be what we consider occupied, which means the same as normal state. So you following the logic here? So there's a couple things going on at the same time. One, we want a variable to be in a true value if a drag item is occupying a drop target. And if the drop target or if the drag item is occupying a drop target, then the drop target is in a normal state. Otherwise, all of these others are in a hidden state currently. Okay, so you follow me, right? So what we need to do is then, as soon as this is the play, this is what we were missing yesterday, as soon as I take first move, if I take ring 1 and I say I put it over here, then ring 1's going to drop down here onto C5. So when that goes over there, then what happens is now, and I'm going to put a 1 here because that's the gameplay 1. What happens is a couple things. One, we're going to turn variable C5 equal to true, because all variables initial value equals false. That's all their initial values are for us. Hi, Kaylee. Say hi, Kaylee. This is my niece, Kaylee. So variable C5 is equal to true when we drop that ring over there. So when that drops over there, the next thing we have to do is we have to turn that object state, that drop target state. So our drop C5 now equals normal. So those are those two triggers that I mentioned before a minute ago. Now it'd be C5. Well, to catch up, Michael, how this, let me do this for you. I'm only doing it with two rings right now. So basically what this looks like is this tower C. So this would be C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5. So those drop targets, now each tower would have, so we'd have 15 drop targets. Oh, thanks, Kaylee. Thanks for coming in. Just for a moment. We're kind of smoking brains. We're at episode 3 right now. We're kind of, I'm smoking my own brain. And I told you, I promised I would not work on this if we're not live, and I haven't, but I can't help myself not thinking about it. And I go back and watch some portions of the broadcast just to make sure, and that's where I can see in it. Then I'm looking at it from sort of a participant's perspective, and I'm identifying things and that's how I figured this out last night, because I rewatched the recording. So anyway, Michael, that's where we're at. We got these, and all of these drop targets are currently in a hidden state right here. So they all start hidden, except for the two where we start from our starting point. Those are already normal. So when we get that first move over here, that first gameplay, this is our first set of triggers. We change the value to true, and we change the state to normal. But now what we didn't do yesterday is, now that this is missing, this is also, we need to change drop A4 to hidden. No. We want to leave that normal, because what if they come back? Aha. Yeah. We don't want to do that yet. They have to keep that. Oh, well, I know what we do. We change variable A4 back to false. That's what we do. Because variable A4 is currently true because it's occupied. Then we move it over to this tower C. Then we flip the variable, we turn it back off or turn it to false. Kind of like you're leaving the room, you turn the light off. But we want to leave that drop target in a normal state in the event we take that ring and drop it back again. Okay? So that's the sketch. Let's do a quick gameplay so we make sure that we didn't miss anything. So our toy, what do we do, and why are we doing it? Bring this around over here. So here's what we did. This is that tower A, right? So these two drop targets are normal. These three drop targets are false, or excuse me, hidden. But we're not really worried about those, right? Because we're just going to focus on these two layers right here. Excuse me. So we take ring 1, put it on C5. C4 now comes normal. C5 variable gets flipped to true. And now A4 variable gets flipped to false. But we leave the drop target active in the event we want to come back. We always got to think of reverse gameplay too. Anybody can go forward. We can figure out going forward, but what all of the other things that happen when I go forward, what's going to happen over here? Then when I move this one, we'll do the same thing. We'll turn A4 off or turn it to hidden. We'll leave A5 to normal, but then we'll flip this variable back to false and leave this, and then this variable goes back to false as well. So I don't know, it looks like a half a dozen triggers, maybe a little bit, maybe half a dozen. At least per game, per move, we're going to have 6 triggers. It's my estimate. Now, you do the math, right? So we get up to 5 rings. The minimum number of plays is 31. 31 times 6, you're looking at that many triggers. 100 triggers or so. That's fine, it can handle it. I built a I built an interaction last fall around Star Wars theme, and it had 976 triggers. So I know it can handle it. Hi, Michelle. And my sister joined. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, the whole family. Garrett was here yesterday, my son, and we used the grandbabies to pick our color palette. Okay, so does everybody make sense? This is our gameplay. That's kind of helpful. I'm not going to write those. Let me go back here. Let's see. Where were we here? So evaluate. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I want to move in. We've got some other things we got to cover. I got some notes here. Hang on. Okay. Yeah, we're almost there. We got to do the story view, layout, map, and then we've got the assets. I updated the assets from yesterday, so I want to cover that real quick. But right here, I'm just going to put episode 4, or no, today's 3. I'm getting ahead of myself. Episode 3 sketch, and then I will update that sketch. I need to think how to write that, and it's not coming clear to me, but it's right here. Well, maybe if I write it here, let's do that. Let's write it here while I look at this, and then I can carry it over. All right, so wait, now it's coming to me. Just gonna grab this. I always forget to do I always think there's a copy, but you actually have to copy first and then come over here and paste. There we go. And move these up a little bit. Over there. Now I'm going to come back and get this piece. Put it in here. There we go. Now we're ready. Okay. Yeah, Michael, it's kind of an old joke. Articulate beta way back. Golly, was it 3 years ago, Michael? A friend of ours in the UK, Phil, was building a interactive periodic table. The entire thing. It was a monster. It was crazy. Okay. Evaluate if we got the gameplay over here. So if you see these first 2 here, just so I know what's going on. That goes to It goes to those two statements. That's what we're doing there. Yeah. And why is this A1? Oh, you know what? I know what we're doing. I got backwards. This is actually, this is live. This is it. This is how it's going. I told you, I warned you, it's unscripted. I'm just thinking out loud. This is actually, we're not, the variables are not associated with drop targets. They're actually associated with the drag item. So this is actually A1 and A2. And this is actually A2. No, A1. No, A2, right. A2. No, it's A1 because we're not there. There. That's the way it is. So it goes like that. Adjust the variable. I'm right here now looking at this spot. This adjust variable A1 to true when drag ring 1 is dropped on. It's already true. I'm missing something again here. I need, I'm going to make a note. I need a variable for, because if, here's the thing right here. See where I've got this? A1 is equal to true. They're initially false. We already know that. But if it's already over here, if it's already true over here, then I can't change it to true again because it's already true. So it's not going to make sense. If the variable's true, but then it goes to another location, then it does it. Now, one way we could do, just thinking, we could use a number variable and maybe do a counting where tower A, we just count the drop targets 1 through 15. So A would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B would be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. C would be 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And why would we do that? Because one variable has got to identify where the ring is on the stack from a tower. So is A1 on that tower in that position, that ring? And then the number variable, perhaps we might need that to count and then just set the variable to that number. So it'd be one variable name. We'd only need one variable, but these are the values that these are values. These aren't variable names. So we would have one called, I don't know, tower, maybe. Tower position. And then depending on, it doesn't matter what, see that's we got to, there's a variable that's sort of a proper name, if you will. It's specific to one drop target. But then this is what I'm thinking we might need as a common variable that just where things are at. So if it doesn't matter which ring, so if ring 1 is on this position, then that variable tower position would change based on that exact value. And then we can leverage that value. It's not quite clear yet. I'm still thinking through that. I know we've got the first move going forward. It's just we might add, this is the part where sometimes we get stuck and we actually have to go into storyline and start seeing what works and what doesn't work. So I think I'm at a place right now I can't figure that out here on paper. I've got some ideas. You can see you've got 2 or 3 different kind of concepts, approaches that I'm thinking about. But in order to get that to work, this gameplay, we might have to actually go build some prototype and test some ideas. So let's take a break on this sketch and let that sink in for a minute, and then we can come back to that. So let's shift gears and let's go. Let's go to the graphics we did yesterday. So let's see. That's okay. That's Photoshop. I don't want to be in there. Let's go to Illustrator. Your head's starting to hurt, Michael? Welcome to my world. I think it was 12:30 this morning when I finally shut the brain off. And I think about it. I'm not doing any sketch. I'm just thinking, and I've committed not to do any of this kind of work. Now, I did go clean up the graphics and got the website updated. And oh, by the way, let me put that in the comments. I'm keeping a running page I just created. So it's a recap. So it's all of the broadcast recordings. It's the sketches, the notes that we've been doing, and some kind of a summary. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this feed and rendering it. This Facebook only does an SD version, sort of a lower quality, but my streaming software is recording at the same time, and it's doing a high res HD quality. And then I take that down, render it, and then put it up on YouTube. And then I've got a playlist on YouTube that then I embed over to the website. And so post-production is taking a little bit longer than I expected this week, but anyway. All right, so what we got on the screen here is our graphics. I did some things yesterday based on the actual graphic. One is I give it a little sort of a curvy, kind of make him look like a ring. I just put a, if you can see at the top here, I just put a 10 pixel corner on them around, just kind of smooth the edges off a little bit. And then I adjusted the sizes. So if we take this, I'm going to show you something that's kind of neat. We take this and we're going to rotate it. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And you'll see that the largest game piece is the same height and width as the tower. So it's just a OCD thing, visual design. It's got to be balanced for me. Everything's got to be. Anyway, so I just kind of cleaned it up last night. And then from a style guide perspective, I added all of the dimensions for all the pieces. So what does that mean? Well, I'm thinking forward. If you were here, episode 1 and 2, one of the big goals of this exercise is not just to build this, but also plan for scalability, reusability, and some other applications. So to do that, I need these dimensions, because what if I wanted to change those rings to look like something different, a different graphic? And I needed to create that graphic in that dimension, so I know that the 5th ring, it doesn't matter what the graphic looks like going forward. I do know that it needs to be 300 by 48, 300 wide by 48 high. And as long as I maintain that style of width and height for all of those pieces, then I can change the pieces to anything I want and then swap them out in storyline, and I don't have to mess with anything. So I'm just kind of thinking a little farther than actually just building this thing out one way. So that graphic is up on the website after I put it out. So if you want to go take a closer look at it and kind of study it, except for this is not part of the graphic that comes off. And down in the lower right, now that's the 4:3 aspect ratio that we chose that we're going to do with this. So I think we're going to get into the storyline. However, not yet. It's like, will you stop teasing me? I want to get in the storyline. That's what I bought the tool for. I want to go build stuff. And we have a little delay. Here it comes. Oh, there it went. Let's pull this up. I don't want that. There's a delay. There's a real, I don't know if it's some kind of a performance thing going on. I'm not sure what's going on. It's like a delay with my mouse too. Every time I try to move my mouse, it's not moving as fast as I want it to. Okay, here we go. 10, 24. It don't matter what we're doing now, but I'll just keep that same. You see me leaning back and forth. I'm moving my. This monitor on the right is right in front of the mic is right here, so I'm having to kind of scoot around a little bit. Let's see if I can move this. Can you guys can hear me okay? Everything go good? There we go. Let me pull it this way. Tighten this up. How's that sound? Better? Good? Okay. There, I can see a little better. Thank you. All right, what are we doing? We are going to design our, we're going to design our story view. What? What is that? Well, we know the game's going to be on one slide, but what else do we need? Well, we need a few other things. So we're just going to put a shape here, and we need a 4:3 shape. So let's go with, there's the math again. 4:3 is, well, it's 400 by 300. We know that, but I don't want that big. So let's see, let's lock the ratio. Let's go down to 200, and that would be 200 by 150. That's a little too big still. Oh, and it's 100 by 75. There we go, we can use that. Yeah, that's too small. About 150. There, that should work. All right, so we've got one right here in the middle. That's our, what is that? That is our launch screen. And what does that mean? I don't know. We put some graphics there. Tower of Hanoi. Whatever we want to do. This is slide 1.1. For those of you that don't know storyline, it's a scene slide metaphor. We're only going to do one scene, but I'd want to know what slides they are. Yeah, there's a whole lot, Andrea. You sure? There's sure. I got a pretty powerful machine, so I'm not. I think what I have is I've got too many apps running I've got Windows running today, and I've got Storyline up and ready when we get over there. But I think Windows is. I believe Windows is. Maybe I should shut it down. I think that's what it is. Windows is a hog. Well, it is. So, anyway. And, well, I'm running Windows and Mac at the same time. I use the VMware Fusion client. And then that's what my two monitors are. One is Mac and my create like Illustrator, Photoshop, all those type of apps over there. And then on the side over here is I keep Windows on this side. And then right here in the middle is where, you know, Skype and iMessage and Facebook and email and all that goes here in the center by my keyboard because that's typically where I'm typing. You know, I can move faster with my Wacom tablet, Wacom tablet. Got a friend here that lives. He's an artist illustrator, and I think he schooled me on the pronunciation, and it's Wacom, but I've always called it Wacom, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but anyway. So, all right, there's our launch screen, and what else do we need? So, are we going to give users the ability to choose right from here? So let me put this, snap to grid, and let's see, what's the stroke on that? It's all right. Put the stroke on the outside, like that. So what do we want to do here? This is 2 rings. So what we're doing is we're given, and I, you know, whatever the wording that we'll put here on this first, you know, it's a choice. Do you want 2 rings, or do you want with a 2, 3, 4, and 5? So I'm going to group those 2 little things together. And go 3, 4, 5, 3, oops. There's 4, and there's 5. You see what I'm doing? So these are going to be like buttons. So we're going to choose how these buttons work. And grab this one. Yep. Yeah, you know, Windows, Windows did that to me yesterday. I was on a client call on Skype, and we were kind of looking at some stuff in Windows in the document, and all of a sudden, this thing comes up: Windows is restarting. Oh, thanks for warning, and it didn't warn us; it just shut down. Yeah, it happens. So let's see. We're going to give it. We'll stay with a gray tone here. Oh, wait, let's use our Grandbaby Gray Tones color palette from the library. Come on. There it is. Grandbaby's Gray Tones. And we're going to give maybe a light color. There we go. That's good. So you see what that's going to look like. It's kind of like a launch screen with the choices. We'll have some wording on there. And then from here, we're going to go into, now the question is, do we want, I think from a management storyline, being able to manage games. So if one starts having a problem, I don't want everything on one slide with a bunch of, now we can build this on and put each game on different layers and then build all the triggers in each layer. But then that goes back to what Andre was saying. Now you're putting a lot of taxing on storyline because that slide's got to process all of that stuff going on. So if we separate things out, the user's not going to know. They won't see the difference. It's how we, as a developer, structure our designs in such a way. One, again, we're talking about future use. I also want to be able to troubleshoot my own work efficiently. And if I put way too much stuff in one slide and I got to try to, it's going to be hard to troubleshoot. So the more I can break it out into individual chunks, then one, I can preview and test one area at a time, but also I'm narrowing in exactly where I need to troubleshoot because we are going to have to troubleshoot. There's no doubt. This isn't going to work first time out. I'm confident we'll get it working. I'm not at all worried that this thing isn't going to come together eventually. But it ain't going to come together. It is not going to come together. It ain't going to come together on the first try. So my thought is to put each one of these in their own gameplay slide. And our first gameplay then is going to be, so this is 1.2. Two rings. And what size is this one here? It's 12. Okay, we'll do 12. Now we just copy this over. And this one is three rings and 1.3. So, and I kind of forethought, this is one of the other things I was thinking about last night, and that quick ways to troubleshoot or ways to think about troubleshooting. Are you seeing, there's another pattern here, right? So gameplay with 4 rings is on what slide? 1.4. So if I don't have to think very hard. If I have a problem with gameplay on where the 3 rings gameplay is having issues, I know exactly, I don't have to think about it. I know it's on slide 1.3 because 1.3 is where 3 rings is at. So what we're doing right now, this has zero to do with storyline. This is just thinking through efficient workflows. I mean, you're doing the work, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of effort. But if you just make it easy on yourself, and a lot of it is going back and fixing things that you've got to work on. So we've got that, and then what else do we need? And the gameplay will be on those slides, and then down here we're going to have a I don't know, some kind of a. Are we going to have congrats you win kind of thing? Is that on another slide? We're going to have the feedback on each. I think this feedback is going to be on each one of the slides, one of the gameplay slides as it is. But the congrats. I know. There's always a start and end, right? So I want to make sure I have an ending, at least a placeholder. If that. Oh, this is 1.5, and this. I'm going to update this one here. Come back. There we go. Okay. So we have at least this setup, and then we're going to focus on this gameplay to start with. That's going to be our focus. We're going to get that one working, and if we get that one working, then all we have to do is copy that over. Now I'm thinking maybe not set this up at all yet, because I don't want to rebuild these others. I want to build on top of. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So these are just placeholders for vision that I know. That's the plan. I'm going to leave it there, and that's our current plan. But I'm not going to build those in story view. But I know that they got to be there. We're going to build this one, and then we're going to copy that and then build onto a working. So we'll get that one working. We'll get 1.2 working prototype. and then we'll add graphics and we'll build on it as we go across. That way we don't have to repeat from scratch each time. What do you think? I think we're ready for storyline now. I think I'm just about there. I'm excited. I want to get started. What do you think? Ready? Okay. So for the purposes of not doing my, where am I at here? For the purposes of assets, what are we calling this? Oh, we just call it story view. For now, it's good enough for now. But it's what it is. That's where it's going to be. You see what else is going on here, though? If you're working for a big project and you're working for a big client, you're working on something like this. It's not just one interaction, but all this documentation and sketching. All these sketches that I've been doing in a normal project, I would then eventually document and transfer those into a more, legible sort of style guide document. That way, because in the future, if I have to revisit the project, I want to see my notes. And I don't want to have to go digging around in iPad libraries and trying to study graphics and images. So I want a nice, clean document that has everything. It's all written out. And I said Monday, I don't have time to write the instructions on how to do all this. But that's what I would typically do. So, oh, Andrea, there is no time. I don't know if you say at time like an hour. I max out at 2. If we go, we're just looking for a good breaking point. It's transitioning over to storyline could be a good breaking point, and we're at an hour. But I don't want to quit. I want to keep going. But we've been kind of averaging the last couple of days at about an hour and a half, hour and 20, hour and a half. So we're going to keep going. I'm learning how to produce. Did you see my producer hat? Look, Andrea, I got my other producer hat. So when I'm producing, I put this hat on, which is actually what I'm fixing to do now, because I'm switching screens. So let's see, we need to go to display left, turn off display right, and there we go. There's storyline. Yay, storyline. Lynn doesn't want to. I don't want to either. I want to go. I know Facebook maxes at 4 hours. Oh, producer hat. Another hat. Facebook storyline. Facebook maxes out at 5 hours because the stream key only lasts for 5 hours. And then, so I figured, and then they say 4 hours is the best. And if we're not going 4 hours because my video would be like 20 gigabytes in file size, and it would take a day and a half to get it up on YouTube. So we're just gonna, these videos are coming in at about 5 gig now, and it's taken about 3 hours to render. So I don't want to go much farther than that. That's the post-production. But thanks, Andrea. So you can feel my pain. I'm trying to produce and present at the same time. Okay. Storyline. Now, see, this mic is not in the way because I'm going to the left monitor. So, all right, we need a new project. And what's the first thing we do? We save our file because we need a file. And where am I going to put this? Let's put it down here. And I've got this folder. If you don't have one of these yet, I highly recommend just to give you an idea, create a library of folders kind of like this. And as you build things, just kind of drop them in there. So I've got probably, here's one. I've got games. So I'll eventually put it in that folder, but I have a Storyline Live folder down here, and I want to keep my storyline source because I might have multiple versions. I might need to make a separate storyline file and then import. I don't know yet. This is planning. I'm still in planning phase. And then we're going to go in here, and we're going to call this the Tower of Hanoi. And save it up. Okay. Piece of cake. We know this slide. Let me zoom. This kind of big screen. Let me zoom that in. This is our launch. There's no menu or anything here, so it's not going to matter. We're going to turn all this stuff off here in a minute. I'm looking over here on the other monitor now because I've got our sketch that we were just doing on the iPad. I've got it saved off in Photoshop, so I've got it pulled up so I can reference it back when I'm building the variable names and things like that. Okay, so storyline 3 or 360 is what I'm working in. A couple things I need to do. We're still setting up. We don't have any navigation, so I need to turn all this navigation off for now, because everything's going to be self-navigated or custom navigation to move around. Then we're going to go into player, and I'm going to go into the player. There it is. And let this pull up. Oh my gosh. It's a Power Mac. I mean, there's a lot of juice in this thing. And it's got to be the streaming and what's going on with processing and everything, because it is slow today. I'm going to turn off everything. And again, these aren't about teaching storylines, so I don't have time to do all that. I'll point out some things as we go along, but I'm turning off essentially all of these other features and controls. And I just want to get to just sort of this base look, and then I go into controls, and I don't have, so we're going to build a custom one. And we're going to call this the naked. We're going to call it the naked theme, and we're going to turn it all off. So transparency is 100. I mean, just all we got to do is really just all of this first. And as you see on the right side, everything's going to start disappearing as I go through. Right separator. And I'll end up cleaning all this up later, once we get our graphics and everything figured out, what colors we want. What am I missing? Something's not moving away here. What is it? This one? Background? Yeah, there it is. Didn't do that one. There, now it's gone. There, that's our blank player, and we're going to test that real quick, and we'll see, we should see just a white, what would appear to be the slide. Should be on there. Okay then. Cue the Jeopardy music. One blank slide. That's all I want to look at. Okay, what else is running that I can shut off? I'm going to shut down Illustrator. We don't need that. Oh, it's showing. Is it showing? It's not showing anything. There should be a white square there. Well, you know, it should show the slide. That's weird. Okay, now I'm worried. Let's try something. Just give the background of color. There it is. That should have been white a minute ago. But okay, it's okay. False alarm. Okay. Now let's pull up our variable list. And here's another thing I would probably do normally. Like if I was teaching this online, I would have the references on the same screen. So you're just gonna have to kind of go with me. I'm gonna start with variables because I know I need those drop target variables. And so we have A1, and it's true false. Initial as false. Am I loud enough here? Make sure I'm. Okay, now I have 15. We have 15 drop targets. So I'm going to copy that one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And just start changing the names. A2. So these kind of projects, a lot of these, if you and I know some of you guys that are joining us are you've done this kind of work, so you know the busy work is just sometimes hours of busy work. Necessary, important busy work. And we get down here to C1, C2. So I think what we're going to do, I think the plan, because you know, we're going to keep it right about an hour and a half. I think we got about 20 minutes. I think I can get the graphics in, get things set up, layout, positioning, and then we got one more and number. And on our sketch, it was called number of plays. So I got to thinking about that. Is it a play or a move? Because a play can arguably be defined as an attempt, like a game attempt, start to finish. Could be a play. Where a move is different, because I want to count the number of moves based on if it's a 2-ring game, a 3-ring game, because a 2-ring game is 3 moves. So I want to count the number of moves, and then if you reset and start over, you know, attempts, right, if you don't get it, on the first time. So I'm going to do number of moves that we're going to count. And then we also want to number of attempts or plays, I guess. And I'm going to do it's easier for me not to get confused with the word play. So number of attempts, number of moves is a number variable, and we're going to count that as we go along. So initially, we know we need that. Now, remember we were just back a minute ago, we might need another set of number variables based on that backwards gameplay. And that's that part that's just not clicking for me yet. But I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole right now. What we do now is we're going to bring in our graphics and get some get things set up. So we need our base. Now remember we designed this in Illustrator and on the same oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't set our story size. Remember we're planning on a 1024 by 768. It's still sitting at the default 720 by 540. Same 4:3 ratio. But I need to boost that up. And now I can insert my graphic, and it should, because I kept it at 72 DPI, it should come in and look exactly the same way it did in Illustrator, except centered. But I mean, centered left, white space left to right is the same. Perfect. I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, now, what I don't know that I don't know yet is where's this sit? Sits in the middle. Do we need a header? We need some kind of header spacing. So I'm going to put a sort of a filler shape up here for now. Just so that I don't interfere with, I might want to put the title of the game up there. I might want to put, maybe the counting number of attempts, some other game related information. 72 high, that's good. And I need something at the bottom too, because I might use the bottom as a scoring area. So I'm going to just kind of reserve those two spaces in the event that I might want to use that area, that real estate. I don't know yet. Because I can design a real fancy, scoring mechanism down at the bottom and position, but I'm focused on, it goes way back to episode 1 if you're here or if you've watched the recording. There's a method. And what happens when we get into storyline, it happens to me all the time. And I have to discipline myself, keep focused on what I'm doing at the time. Adding the pretty stuff, the graphics and all that kind of stuff, it's all part of the design. I get it. But we're not there yet. My method is I want to get that MVF, minimum viable functionality. I want to get that working, because if that works, then I can relax a little bit and settle down, because I know it works. And then I just know it's busy work building on it and adding on top of it. And I know it's just a matter of time and effort to get it all working. But getting that very first functionality built, that's critical. And then I can come back and add the pretty. If I start focusing on the pretty stuff now, I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll lose time. So I'm just going to, but I do need to consider the real estate that I may potentially need when I get to that point. So, if that makes sense. So that's a good position right about there, I guess. Maybe. Decisions. All right, so this is our header. This is where we were talking about, if you're not familiar with storyline, this is where we name our objects down here in this timeline area. So I've got the footer and the header, and I'm going to group those and just keep them out of the way. Header, footer. So I just know that little group is out of the way, and I don't keep that at the bottom. Here's our base picture. So this is the base graphic. And now we're going to bring in our rings. And we want to position these. See, this is the difference between storyline and Illustrator. You see that snapping? It's not snapping right where I want it to. So we'll get them over here to start with in this general location. And we need to name these. So this is drag ring 1. Drag ring 2. Now our drop targets, we can use storyline shapes, which we are going to do. Drag ring 4 and drag ring 5. So notice what we're doing right now. We're not thinking. We're developing. See the big difference? This is critical. We spent the last 2.5 episodes designing, thinking through, preparing our assets, getting some thoughts together. And notice what I've been doing. I mean, I'm not thinking about design. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've got the process in place. We're bringing in the graphics. We're naming the objects. We've got our variables set up. And that's the process now. We just go to the point when then we get all this set up and laid out. Then we'll go add those couple triggers and we'll start building the functionality. So when we get in here, this won't, I might go longer because this shouldn't take long to get this all put together and get this thing working. I'm pretty confident we can make it happen. I don't want to go too long. Now remember what I was saying before in Illustrator about knowing what that size is? What was it? You remember the size of the base graphic? Not the base, the ring 5 is the same as the height of a tower. It's 300 by 72. So I'm going to make this drop target the same. So it's going to be 72 by 300. And it's not matching up. Well, of course not. Of course not. That is the dimensions of, it should be that graphic. What's this one say? What is this coming in at? 48 by 300. Oh, it was 48. That's right. Not 72. Yep, 48. So that should be the same. Where did I get 72 from? Oh, I know what 70 is. 72 is the height of the bottom. There, you see that? See how, don't you love it when it comes together? Look at that. That is the exact same size. We built it in Illustrator. We set our dimensions over there. We saved it as 72 DPI because that's what renders here. And now we got the exact same thing. How cool is that? Okay, we come down here, base graphic. I want to lock that because I don't want to move it. And then I want to grab these for a moment and kind of slide them out of the way. And then come back over here. Now I need to really, this is critical because I want all of these to be pretty darn accurate. So I'm going to zoom way in here. Now if you don't know, you can, what I should have done is put some guidelines on the graphic. Now these are going to eventually be transparent, so I'm not really worried about the color right now. Now storylines, guidelines should come in handy. So one way I can tell is I'm going to right click size and position, and I'm going to leave this little window here up. And our position for the bottom one, vertical, is 506. And our next one is 458. So the question is, 458 plus 48 should be 506. Is that right? I don't know. I can't do math right now. Let me get my calculator. 506 minus 48 equals 458. Hey, it landed right where it's supposed to be. Perfect. Okay. So that's perfect, meaning it's exactly right where it needs to be. Now I'm going to take these two, copy and paste. Now just to verify, 458 minus 48 is 410, so this one should be sitting at 410. Correct. Good. And 410 minus 48 is 362. 362. So they're coming in right where they need to be. Is this OCD? No. This is going to ensure that we have accurate snapping of our drag and drop targets on these towers. And then finally we need one more. And just to verify, 362 minus 48, 314. There we go. You see how that works? Is that making sense? Hey, hi Nita. How are you? How fun. Getting all kinds of friends showing up. This is excellent. Okay, so let's see. Where are we at? We're going to back down a little bit. Everybody say hi to Anita. Anita was my boss for a number of years when I worked in corporate. And then life changed and we went our different ways. She went one way and I went a different way. Well, she went first and then I went. Life is fun. Life is good. Okay. 1, 2. I'm not going to name these yet because we're going to copy that stack over here. Now I might be able to keep them relatively, this is going to be the tricky part because I don't know what the center of that tower is just yet. Now, here's what we got to do. This is 506. This should be 506 and it's not. So it's one off. That means this whole stack is one off. So I'm going to bring it down 1 pixel. And this should be 506, 506. 458, that matches 410, 410, 362, and 34. Okay, so they're set. Now, I'm going to do that again. Oh, come on. Paste, and then bring this stack over here. Right about there. And we are 2 down, so we got to go 2 pixels. Now let's check those. 506, 458, 410, 362, and 314. Okay, good. Now, notice here though, the white space is different. See, it's a little wider here. And that appears to be in the center. And that doesn't appear to be in the center. And that doesn't. So what's telling me is it's possible the base graphic towers are not. Let's see. Let's see how we can do this. This is a critical time. So we got to make sure. The positioning, so you notice here the positioning horizontal 672 is from the top left. So top left, the horizontal is the left. So it's 672 from the left edge. Even if I were to do center, I would love to be able to know what the what the pixels are from the edge over here. And the one way we can do that is cheat. Is come in here and just grab a shape. And let's take off the outline. One way to do this is just kind of pop that. So that is size 52. So it's 52 pixels of white space on that right side. So if we take this object and go over here to the other side, it should be 52, or I'm hoping it's 52. So let's measure this over here, and it looks like we're good. So the left and right are are equal, and that's happy news. What does that mean? That means the white space between this stack and the left edge is 52 pixels. And from the right edge of the right stack over here in Tower C to the right edge of the slide is 52 pixels. What we don't have is this equal distribution. So what we can do is we can take these three, one row at a time, if you will, and we're going to distribute horizontally, and that centers that middle one. It'll center the middle. It'll anchor the two flanking objects. Now you can do this with 10 objects. So what happens, you select all and distribute horizontally. It'll anchor the left and right and move whatever objects are in the middle and distribute evenly. So I know that the left and right, our drop targets here, are going to not move, and we're just going to tinker that little middle one over to the right just a hair. And this should get everything lined up real nice and neat. Okay. Nice, there we go, nice balanced. Everything's there. Now these are all gonna turn transparent. We're not gonna see those. The learner's not, the user, the learner, they're not gonna see it. But we need them here visibly so that I know what they are. Now we just got to name them all. So let's see, let's go down here. This is drop. What do we call these? Drop what? A1? No, it's drop A5. Drop A5. Drop A4. Now again, busy work. Two, and we're gonna get all 15 of them in here. There's one. Now we're going over to Tower B. So this is B5. Whoops. Come on. There we go. B4. Hey Michael, thanks buddy. Thanks for joining. I know we get to about this point and just I've noticed that folks just can't, not many folks can hang on. So I'm going to get this. I think this is a good stopping point once we get all this set up, and we can look forward to start putting our functionality and triggers in tomorrow. I'm going every day until it's done. I don't know how long it's going to take. Rest of this week for sure. If not, maybe some next week. And then we're just tracking how many hours it takes, and how long does it take to do something like this. I figure we get it done. I don't know. I'm not going to estimate because I don't know what we're going to run into. I suspect we're going to run into some things that we're going to have to figure out along the way. C1. Okay. One last thing, and then we'll call it. I'm going to put these. Now these should. Oh, wait a minute. One thing I'm going to do, just for now, I'm just going to. I'm going to send these to the back. No, they can't be the back. Well, yeah, they can. We got this. Can go to the back now. There we go. Get that back there. And then last thing, I'm just gonna move those. Our drag items into place. These aren't lining up. Well, the one thing about PNGs is there's a little bit of a, let's see, as long as they're centered. All right, last little thing. I'm just going to make sure. This is OCD. I got to do this. I can't help not. I can't shut this down without knowing. We know 506, 52, and we know 52, 458, and 458. There's our. And I know that's wrong. What was that one? 410. So we got to bring this down to 410. 362. Oh, that one landed right. And that was landed right too. There. Now it looks good. Let's save that. Okay. Excellent. I think that's a great place. I think that's a great place to pause. What do you think? And then I'll summarize all this. I'll summarize all this for us and write it up and get it up on the website and process this video. What that took us right at an hour and a half. So we're managing about an hour and a half. So that's 4.5 hours so far. Now again, just the other disclaimer, it would take half this time if you're doing it by yourself, because obviously you're not talking and sharing and trying to produce and all that kind of stuff. But I figured what I've done up to this point and get this first file set up, I would maybe 2 hours. I don't know. I have no idea because I didn't do it without you guys, so I don't know. But it would be half probably at least. So anyway, good. Thanks for joining again. Same time tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Check the Facebook page for tomorrow's event. Same time, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, 9 on the West Coast. And I'll be posting the summary up on the website, or up on the website as well as on the Facebook page, so that you can go there and recap and see the previous episodes and what we've done up to this point. So between now and then, if you're playing with Storyline today, keep practicing. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Bye now.